From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on August 22nd, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. And a little programming note or two to start you guys off with. Next week, the week of the 26th, we will only have one episode for you. That's because AT's going to be in the big city of Salt Lake City for some work travel. So we'll have one episode for you that week. And then also, we'll be back on September 2nd. That's the day after Labor Day. It's Tuesday. It's when we typically drop pods, but we'll be observing Labor Day, so we will be taping on Tuesday. So a later pod on September 2nd. Then I promise you, we'll be back in our groove, including on September 11th, when we do a live lead taping at Rock Hill Brewing. We need to see you there. We want to see you there. September 11th. From 6 to 8 p.m., Rock Hill Brewing. We might have a special guest.
Wow.
And actually, AT might bring a special guest, too. Yeah. Little baby Rita might be there. I'm just going to say. So we want to see you guys there. You can RSVP at southcarolinpublicradio.org. It is free. We just want to get you your name tag, maybe a free drink ticket, some swag, all the fun stuff. Rock Hill Brewing, live lead taping, September 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. We can't wait to see you guys there. Enough housekeeping, though. Out of the way. On this episode of The Lead, we brief you on what 4 of the 5 Republican gubernatorial candidates discussed at a recent Republican gathering in Myrtle Beach. We also caught up with Senator Lindsey Graham on the campaign trail in the Pee Dee. And 2 big endorsements also dropped this week. Who got a political equivalent of a Bachelor rose, and from who? We also have a Gavin Open Seas Maritime Report, or GOSMAR, on a major leadership change at the South Carolina ports. That is also the sound of us asking you to sound off in our voicemail box at 803-563-7169. The hopper needs your love. You can text, you can call 803-563-7169. Let us know as summer winds down. It was the week of Republican revelry, replete with big-name headliners and candidates vying for the money and votes of the hundreds gathered at their respective events. First up, though, first-term Congresswoman Sherry Biggs of the 3rd Congressional District took up the mantle of her predecessor, Jeff Duncan, and hosted her Salute to Liberty dinner at the Anderson Sports and Entertainment Center, the same venue Duncan hosted his Faith and Freedom barbecue at for years. Biggs' event on Monday featured Arkansas Governor and former White House Press Secretary for President Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as the keynote speaker, and there were no campaign speeches or candidate pitches before the 1,200 conservatives gathered in the upstate on Monday. Biggs also secured the coveted endorsement of President Trump on Tuesday. She got the rose that we were talking about. There's one more endorsement in this episode. We'll get there in a minute. But meanwhile, on the Grand Strand in the 7th Congressional District, right, so we're going from Biggs up in the 3rd Congressional District to the 7th on the coast. Well, there were plenty of political pitches, sort of, at Congressman Russell Fry's 2nd annual Freedom Fry. Yes, a play on words. I covered this event, which is why we have audio from it, though it could be better audio because there wasn't a malt box. Yes. 4 of the 5 candidates vying to be the Republican gubernatorial nominee gave brief speeches before some 1,000 conservatives packed into the Myrtle Beach Hilton, where I also stayed.
Oh, how you doing?
Yeah. Talking to a Hilton Honors Silver Tier member here, guys.
Wow.
I'm trying to get to gold. Oh, gosh. But like the upstate, the Grand Strand is home to America's Playground, Myrtle Beach in Horry County. It's a critical area for any Republican looking to win a nomination or office. Now, in addition to gubernatorial candidates, Attorney General Alan Wilson, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, Congressman Ralph Norman, and Congresswoman Nancy Mace, State Senator Josh Kimbrell did not attend. There were also constitutional officers present, like Secretary of State Mark Hammond and Treasurer Curtis Loftus, both of whom are up for re-election next year. Also in attendance was Senator Lindsey Graham, who later appeared on Hannity and campaigned in the nearby Pee Dee region the next day. But let's stick with those 4 gubernatorial candidates. Each was given a paltry 3 to 4 minutes to give a speech before the headliner, conservative commentator Scott Jennings, gave his keynote speech. And these weren't necessarily stump speeches. Many spent time lauding Congressman Fry, and Evatt didn't even mention she was running for governor, though none of that was lost on the room full of party activists. They kind of know who's who. But Norman started off with a lot of praise for Fry and a little anecdote over his challenge coin.
This man is the real deal. And I want to give you my congressional coin, and I want to tell you, we get humbled every day. We were in the White House and President Trump, and I didn't know you could mimic him like you do. He's good. There's one, Mike Johnson can mimic Donald Trump, but Russell is very good. But anyway, I said, Mr. President, as a memento for having us back in the White House, I'd like to give you my coin. And I won't tell you what he called my coin, but he said it's BS. He said, here's a coin. It's like a saucer. And one of the nicest coins I've seen. He told me, he said, the person that did this, he found, he was a real ornate. The guy put 45 and 47 before he was elected. But he said, and President Trump said, I want to pay him an extraordinary amount of money. He said, I've never had this happen. The guy said, when he offered him the money, he said, I don't want the money. What you're doing for the country is worth every ounce of my time and effort in this coin. So Russell, I want to present you with my coin. And I will miss serving, next year will be my last year that I will serve in Congress. I'll be running for governor. But I'm so proud. Folks, what you see is what you get. Washington has not changed Russell Fry. Russell Fry has changed Washington.
I'm telling you, these speeches weren't very big on campaign talk. Well, maybe not all of them. Congresswoman Mace, who is using almost every opportunity to praise Trump in order to get his endorsement, that Rose, we're talking about the Rose here, spent more time talking about him than herself.
I, as a rape survivor, went into the lion's den, and I defended Donald J. Trump because he defends us. Real men protect women. And Donald Trump protects women. And I have to tell you, coming into Horry County tonight, there are so many real men protecting women here. I see no men in skirts. So thank you for that.
A note there that Trump has been accused of sexual misconduct by dozens of women, including E. Jean Carroll, who won a $5 million defamation case where a jury held Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation, though not rape. Now, Lieutenant Governor Evatt spoke after Mace and didn't even mention, like we said, that she was running for governor. But she did talk about partnerships at the federal and congressional level.
And that's what's important now about Russell being in Congress. Because from the state level, we need good partners. We need people that represent South Carolina well, that work with what we're doing in the state. So this year, energy was a big part of the initiative the governor and I had. Working really hard to make sure that we got, well, what I told Secretary Zeldin and the Vice President when they came to Newcourts, I said, Secretary, Mr. Vice President, I said, we're going to pass this big, beautiful energy bill here in South Carolina. And I said, and when we do that, how can we get help from the federal government? And he said, well, President Trump told me that I had 10 weeks to get rid of useless regulations. And I thought, well, that sounds about right, because the president doesn't sleep, so he doesn't expect any of us to sleep. And it's so important to have people from our state like Congressman Fry.
And A.G. Wilson also addressed the group following remarks from his father, Congressman Joe Wilson, who was also in the audience.
As a 29-year combat veteran and a colonel in the National Guard, I've had the opportunity to lead soldiers in combat. I did that twice in Iraq, once on August 20th, 2004, when an IED blew up a vehicle behind my Humvee, riddling my vehicle with shrapnel, missing me and my soldiers by mere inches, going out the front windshield. And then the following night, when we received small arms fire in downtown Baghdad. I don't say that to brag about me, I say that to brag about the heroism of the young soldiers who are between the ages of 20 and 24, how I watched them respond, and how they followed orders, and how we were able to get out of there without one soldier dying or being harmed. One of the proudest moments of my life was to lead those soldiers. So hoo-ah to the Army. Another story I want to tell you. The story is back in the wake of the 2020 election, I was involved in a multi-state lawsuit that went to the U.S. Supreme Court about election integrity in the 2020 election. What a lot of you didn't know, and I mentioned this at the Silver Elephant dinner last week, but after that lawsuit was filed, I had 32 complaints filed against me at the Office of Disciplinary Counsel by Democratic operatives from all over South Carolina seeking to take my law license because of the role that I played in that case going to the Supreme Court. For 4 years, nearly $100,000 in defending my law license, my livelihood, and I couldn't talk about it. None of you knew about it, but I did that I did that lawsuit because it was the right thing to do. And it all got dismissed in June of this year. I can talk about it now. It cost me about $100,000, but we won. The reason I tell you these stories about me is to say that it's easy to make decisions when your life and the lives of those around you doesn't depend on it. It's easy to support the president and members of Congress and other people when everyone in the room is agreeing with you and you're saying things that everyone agrees with. But support the president when it costs you your livelihood. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Now, I know that was a big chunk of time, and I know not everyone is interested in the governor's race, and I know it's still early days, but I wanted to give you all a little vibe check on the race and make sure I included nearly everyone so you could get that little feel for how the trail's doing. We're touching a little campaign trail grass. Don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from in the coming weeks and months. Now, after the speeches concluded, folks like Evett, Wilson, and Norman worked the room. May stepped out, and Graham, like we said, had his Fox News hit out of Florence, which is where I covered him the next day. Graham may have ended his day talking with Sean Hannity on Fox News, but he started Tuesday off with President Donald Trump calling him to talk about the latest moves with Ukraine and Russia.
Donald Trump is the right man at the right time. And let me tell you why. Because he just told me that about an hour ago. I don't need a wake-up call. He's my wake-up call. I can set my clock, but I know like at 6:48 or 7:48 who's it going to be. And I said, let's try to do 8:48 one morning. But anyway, I talked to him this morning. He's very pleased with where we're at on Ukraine. We're not there yet by any means. But let's put it this way. Donald Trump is giving peace a chance. And that's all you can hope for, right? They got to want peace more than we want peace. And when it comes to Ukraine, remind me not to invade Ukraine. These people will fight you. And that's a good thing. I'd like to think we'd be that way. Would we fight for our country? Would we fight for our homes? I hope we would. So I expect Ukraine to keep fighting, and I hope we can convince Putin to knock us off. I'm not out to humiliate him, but I'm out to give him a choice. If you keep this war going, we're going to crush your economy. And make it clear to him, and maybe we can end this war.
Graham shared the anecdote as well as updates on domestic and international affairs before some 100 folks who gathered at Holtz Brothers Barbecue in Florence. There, he made his case for his re-election bid to a friendly crowd, despite some Democratic protesters outside on the sidewalk.
President Trump is doing hard things, right things, quickly. And I want to continue to be his partner. I want to help get his judges through the Senate. I want to help him manage the world. I want to help him be the commander-in-chief we need. I want to have his back in the Senate. And I'm asking you to have my back. People ask me, I think I'm very consistent. I try to help every president to the extent I can, even if they're a Democrat. I wind up fighting them most of the time, but being president is a hard job. And it's good to work with the other side when it makes sense, but it sure heck is good to fight them if your country's future's at stake. And that's what we're doing. We're having an election. I think I'm capable of winning this state better than anybody because they spent $132 million trying to beat me last time.
Graham there referencing the 2020 election and him soundly defeating Democrat Jamie Harrison by 10 points, despite the record-breaking sums raised at the time. The group also lightly questioned Graham, who was chairman of the Budget Committee and the second highest-ranking Republican on the Judiciary Committee. Assignments that he joked came with age and seniority, something he learned from his seat's predecessor, Strom Thurmond.
I've been on the Budget Committee for about, at least a decade. I went to one meeting because we never did anything. All of a sudden, we had the House, the Senate, and the White House, and we got a chance to do reconciliation. And they called me and they said, you're going to be the budget chairman. I said, how can that possibly be? In the Senate, it ain't about what you know. It's about living longer than everybody to your right. Strom Thurmond taught me that just living a long time gets you to where you need to go a lot of time. So I am now the chairman, have an opportunity once in a lifetime. We've had 4 times in 100 years where the Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the White House. 4 times. And under our law of 1974, if you have all 3 branches, you can do a thing called reconciliation, where you can avoid the 60 vote rule in the Senate. So Democrats used it to pass Obamacare. Not one Republican voted for Obamacare. That's how they got it passed. I told Trump, we got a chance and we're going to take it, and failure's not an option. I went to the first budget meeting. I said, you know more about the budget than I do, but I'm in charge, and you're going to vote yes when you need to and no when you should. And that was the budget rule. We're going to pass this dang thing. And Trump and Mike Johnson and John Thune did a wonderful thing. And I did my part of getting it out of committee. We beat every Democratic amendment, and we got it over the line. And the one big, beautiful bill is good for your country.
Graham is a young 70 compared to Thurman, who died at 100 just months after leaving office in 2003. Graham is seeking a 5th 6-year term in the Senate. He was also endorsed by Trump back in March, a rose, if you will. I don't know what they do on Love Island. I only know Bachelor references. However, that hasn't stopped folks from jumping in the race to challenge him for the nomination next June. When I asked him about claims such as not being MAGA enough that folks like Paul Dans, a lawyer who crafted the ultra-conservative Project 2025 agenda, claims, well, Graham said it was an insult to Trump more so than to him.
Apparently, President Trump didn't get the memo. When President Trump endorses you, I think he knows what he's doing. To suggest that President Trump doesn't know me and what I do for him is really a slam on him more than me. So the reason I got endorsed by President Trump is that I'm his friend. I'm his probably one of the most effective allies in the Senate, and I think I've earned it.
But a big issue in the Pee Dee is the stalled $1.6 billion AESC battery plant project that was paused in June due to policy and market uncertainty. The plant is being built in Florence, and it's supposed to supply BMW with electric vehicle batteries. But Trump froze green energy investments funded by the Biden-approved Inflation Reduction Act, leaving many major job-creating investments stuck. Graham responded this way.
Well, we got them some money, and they're on hold right now because we don't know where the electric car business is going to go. So I want to help companies come here and be successful, but the market's got to be there to justify the business. Time will tell. I hope we can complete that.
Time will indeed tell. Graham has a war chest of more than $15 million as of the end of June, per federal campaign financial disclosures. Moving on, and speaking of endorsements, roses if you will, in a move that I thought already happened, Congressman Ralph Norman is endorsing South Carolina Senator Wes Clymer in the race to succeed Norman in Congress. Norman said in a press release, quote, that I've known Wes Clymer since he was in kindergarten. He is a principled conservative with a strong moral code that guides him in life and politics. In his short time in the Senate, he has gotten more done for the state than most career politicians and has stood up to the swamp when we needed him most. I have every confidence that he will work tirelessly with conservatives in Congress and President Trump to deliver results for the America First agenda, quote. Clymer, a financial advisor, business owner, and father of 5, is in his 3rd term in the state Senate. Now, I also spotted him holding a sign at Norman's campaign launch, so again, no real surprise here, but a big, important get for Clymer. Sticking with our congressional delegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace had a defamation suit dropped against her. The Post and Courier reports that U.S. District Judge Richard Gergel said some of the defamation claims against Mace might have had merit if not for the Westfall Act, which shields members of Congress from facing lawsuits over their official duties. The suit stems from the near hour-long House floor speech Mace gave back in February, in which she accused 4 men, including her ex-fiancé, of sexual misconduct. Speech from the House floor is protected under the Constitution. Mace, knowing this, chose to use the venue to bring up allegations that have been and still are under investigation by the State Law Enforcement Division. Brian Musgrave of Fort Mill was one of the men Mace named, and he filed the defamation suit. Another man Mace named, Eric Bowman, was charged in an unrelated case with first-degree domestic violence stemming from a 2016 video that SLED discovered while investigating the Mace case. Mays filed a defamation suit against Bowman in May, accusing him of damaging her reputation following the speech. The case is pending. Speaking of legal matters and politicians, former state representative R.J. Mays' federal trial over accusations that he distributed child sexual abuse material will be delayed until early October. The trial was set to start with jury selection on September 10th, but his public defender asked for more time to prepare and go through the tremendous amount of data related to the case. Jury selection is set to take place now on October 8th, with the trial starting the next day. Now from land to sea. Gosmar. We have big maritime news out of the South Carolina Ports Authority, which on Thursday announced President and CEO Barbara Melvin had resigned to, quote, pursue other opportunities, quote, following her 3-year run in the position and a career with SC Ports dating back to 1998. In a statement, Melvin said, quote, I am grateful for the opportunity to have served South Carolina and the Ports Authority over these many years. However, for personal and professional reasons, I want to pursue other opportunities. I take pride in what has been accomplished by the port while I have served it in multiple roles. Knowing the resiliency of the Ports Authority and its people, I have no doubt even more success is in its future, quote. Bill Stern, chairman of the SC Ports Board of Directors, accepted her resignation on behalf of the board, and Chief Financial Officer and VP of Administration Philip Paget has been named as interim CEO effective immediately. Paget joined SC Ports in 2016 as controller, and as CFO, he is responsible for the financial, risk management, and real estate activities of the port. All the fun stuff. This comes as the port says construction continues on 2 key infrastructure projects, including the Leatherman Rail Facility, set to open early next year, and Phase 2 of the Leatherman Terminal expansion. That project will extend the wharf an additional 1,600 feet, which will create space for an additional 5 ship-to-shore cranes. But speaking of the Leatherman Terminal, MSC, the largest carrier in the world, and SC Ports' largest carrier customer, will launch 2 new weekly transatlantic services per the port. It's a lot of TEUs coming to the port. All this will make for an interesting state of the port's presentation that is already scheduled for October. Gosmar cannot wait. Welcome to the Wind Down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
And off the top, I just got to say, I'm sorry for the schedule change again, okay? I'm going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I've never been. I don't know what's there. If anyone has any suggestions, please text the line. Let me know. Because I would say, Gavin, I'm pretty good at finding stuff in places that we go, right?
Can agree. Can definitely agree with that.
I'm struggling with Salt Lake City, okay? So, folks, please bail me out a little bit. I will not have time to go to, like, the wilderness things, the Subaru owner attractions around.
VIP.
But if there's anything in the downtown area that I should check out, please let me know. But, Gavin... You have some other things to talk about today, right?
Speaking of big cities.
Hey, speaking of big, scary cities.
I'm glad to be back in Columbia, folks. Seattle, where I was. I got to spend some time there. I was in a specific... We were talking about in the last pod, my trip out west for my cousin's wedding. I went out a couple days before, as I always do, because why not? Well, I mean, I got time. And I didn't want to stay in downtown Seattle because I think that's always kind of overblown. You want to find like the cool neighborhoods.
Sure.
So I stayed in a little area called Capitol Hill, which was fantastic. I grew up in the D.C. area, right? So like big city. Having grown up there, having commuted in high school on the metro from high school back home, like doing all the big city things.
You know generally how big city goes.
Yeah. And yes, there was a lot of homelessness there. I honestly had never been accosted. I've never had any problems. The first night I got there, Thursday, had a great time. The city of Seattle is the land of happy hours, like Washington.
Good for them.
A lot of Washington overlap here. D.C. has so many happy hours. Seattle, I was living off of like the 3 to 5, the 3 to 7 crowd. Didn't eat dinner, then late happy hours. So, you know, you're feeling good. You're walking around. I stayed out till like maybe 2 a.m. on Thursday night.
Gross. As a parent, gross.
Terrifying, right? Like, oh my gosh, how are you doing that?
I don't know how you do that.
And I walked home. I was walking everywhere. I was totally fine. Because when you're a little tipsy, or however you might want to say, things don't really, you have that feeling of invincibility as it's a good and a bad thing, obviously. But it doesn't register with you how maybe dicey the situations might be.
You just steamroll through it.
Yeah, everything's great.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. Smash cut to the Friday night. I'm doing kind of the same thing. I'm hanging out. I go out. I don't know. I must have got a little too ahead of myself because 7 o'clock rolls around. I'm going to take a quick nap. 10:30 shows up,
Yikes,
right?
buddy.
You know, you're jet lagged. I'm on West Coast
You've
time.
mismanaged this.
And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to play catch up. I have to go see family this weekend the next day. So I'm like, I can have a night in, right? I can be okay.
A Seattle night in. Toss salad and scrambled eggs, right?
It's 10:30. I'm like, well, man, go see what's going on out there and do a quick loop. And again, right, I've woken up. I'm completely sober. And I'm walking around and the fear is present. I'm like, oh my God, like, is this?
See.
So everything that was a Gaussian blur before.
You're seeing.
I do a quick a loop around the block. I'm like, oh, I got to get back inside. But no, Seattle was great. It really blew away my expectations. Everyone was so friendly.
Yeah.
I went to this one happy hour. They had tinned fish on the menu.
Man, oh
which
man.
they caught me. I guess they must have known I was a big tinned fish guy. I mean, it was just all these little things here and there. The Elysian Brewing Company. I mean, they were really trying to sell me on Seattle.
They knew that you had a Subaru. It was written all over your face.
Well, at the time, I had my mustache.
That's
that's what it was.
It was probably the
respect.
whole thing.
So I had my summer stash, which I know listeners can always hear.
Yeah.
You know.
You sound less trustworthy now.
I feel different.
Yeah.
I shaved it on Monday because we're back on camera. We're doing all these things.
It's horrible, folks.
Summer's over.
He looked so good.
I think out of my two brothers, I can grow the best mustache. Which is all.
It's because I think everything.
I'm not a fan.
Is feeding everything else. Where like, yes, you have a Subaru, of course. Yes, you have a podcast. Yes, you have a mustache, and it's sort of like this triumvirate all coming together, and in the middle is you.
This is the fifth book, actually.
Yeah, no, it's in the once you get in the fifth book, you really.
This is weight on. It's weight on me. It's weight on my shoulders. But when you talk about how this all started because of the Subaru, it's really not because of the Subaru. Subaru is the latest in the fifth book. What started in the first book, was this right here, the Las Sportivas.
Las Sportivas. He's putting his giant hiking boots on the table.
I'm
folks.
wearing them not because they don't come off because it's raining today.
They've melded into your skin.
I got these back in December 2023 because I was going to Iowa.
Yeah.
I don't wear my bean boots.
Yeah.
Because these are Gore-Tex.
Yeah.
And I think that is the origin story of where we are today.
That was, looking back,
the hiking boots.
We should have seen the Subaru coming.
No one expected it.
No, yeah, it's a slippery slope, folks.
Hiking.
You got to be careful.
And then I tried to go to Congaree National Park yesterday.
Eaten alive
by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
There's even a mosquito meter that they made, and it says it's like a scale of 1 to 6, and it's on 4. It says severe.
We should be able to punch up the mosquito meter name. Like, is it a metersquito? Like mosquiteater? Like, there's something there that's better, folks.
I'm not going back till it's cold.
I'm not giving it away for free though. So if you want me to punch it up, folks, just let me know. Okay?
Beep boop beep.
Make it a little better.
Oh, I felt bad because we just went to go hike the North Cascades. America's Alps, beautiful. And then I come back here.
America's swamp.
Went from the tall to the low.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I live 30 minutes away from South Carolina's only national park. And I'm like,
It's not fair.
Now I know why I haven't been there because, 9 months out of the year, it's intolerable to be outside in a sense.
Yeah.
And those bloodsuckers were on me. I had long sleeves pants.
There are beautiful parts of this state. And,
so beautiful.
And we get a swamp. Like, as a swamp person from New Jersey, I think that we deserve a little bit better.
Oh, we saw Lizard Man in the swamp.
Skateboard Swamp.
Listen to the episode.
Great McDonald's near there. Anyway, Gavin, say the outro. We will see you once next week, and then the week after that, I promise you, it'll be normal for like 45 straight weeks. Okay, folks? That's
oh my God.
That's a curse and a promise.
Sorry, I'm just processing that. Yes, and we also want to see you on September 11th at Rock Hill Brewing for our live lead taping. You can RSVP at southcarolinapublicradio.org, where you can also stay up with the latest news there and on scetv.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. Thank you. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. That's my meat. That's true.
That's a good.
You did it.
Yeah,
we got it. Okay, you can start.
You
can start now.
10:38.
Don't touch it.
All right, there we go.
Okay, he's warmed up. But you could really do drive time. I'm just saying, we could really do drive time.